My friends, stop trying so hard to manifest. You were not born to chase shadows or to strain the muscles of your mind in pursuit of dreams. You were born to imagine, and by imagining, create. You see, effort is the enemy of knowing. When you try, you declare to yourself that what you want is far away, that you are not yet it, that the dream still eludes you, and so you reach, but you never touch. You strive, but you never arrive. Desire is not a demand, it is a seed, and seeds do not grow because you push them. They grow because you trust the soil, the season, and the silent magic of life. So it is with your inner world. Once you have imagined the end, you must leave it alone rest in its certainty. Imagination is not a tool, it is the truth. This world you call reality is but the echo of your accepted assumptions, and the moment you feel that you are what you seek to be, it must externalize, not because you forced it, but because you fused with it. You must live now in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not tomorrow, not next week now. Enter the state and dwell in it quietly, like a dreamer who does not question the dream, simply accept that you are already what you desire. Do not try. To try is to protest. It is to say, I am not there. But assumption, silent, confident, effortless assumption declares, I am, and that declaration creates. The subconscious does not argue. It does not analyze. It simply reflects. It takes the impressions you give it and builds a world in their image. If you keep checking, doubting, measuring, and waiting, you feed it confusion and delay. But if you truly rest in the end, it begins to unfold with divine precision. You must know this. Creation is finished. All things exist now. You do not manifest by force. You manifest by selection. You move into the version of you who already has it, and you stay there not through effort, but through inner conviction. Stop checking for results. You wouldn't plant a rose and dig it up each day to see if it's blooming. So why do that with your desires? Let the unseen do its work. Relax. Sink into your inner kingdom. All that you wish for already belongs to you in consciousness. Take possession not by trying, but by being. And let the outer world fall in line, as it always does, in time. Thank you. Effort contradicts faith, because the very nature of faith is ease. When you believe something is true, you do not struggle to make it so. You accept it as already done. You walk in it. You feel from it. There is no urgency, no tension, no need to persuade or force. But the moment you begin to try hard to push and prod reality into submission, you are silently declaring, this is not yet mine. In that declaration lies doubt. You may be speaking words of faith, affirming outcomes, and visualizing desires, but if beneath it all there is a nervous energy, a need to make it happen, then you're not standing in belief, you are caught in resistance. Real belief is effortless because it lives in the end. Imagine you are wearing a warm coat on a cold day. Do you constantly think about it? Do you try to make it warmer? Do you need to remind yourself that it's there? No, you simply enjoy the warmth. You trust its presence. So it is with faith. When you believe something is yours, you don't labor over it. You rest in it. That resting is the most powerful act of creation because it aligns your inner state with the reality you seek to experience. Trying, on the other hand, is an admission of separation. To try is to suggest that you are outside the thing you want. You are reaching toward it, rather than living from it. This is a subtle but crucial distinction. To reach is to acknowledge lack. To dwell within is to express fulfillment. You cannot inhabit a state and simultaneously try to enter it. You're either in the state or you're not. Effort keeps you at the door. Faith walks through it. This is why so many people who are tirelessly manifesting, repeating affirmations all day, visualizing in desperation, journaling with strain, often feel stuck. They are doing these things with the energy of anxiety, hoping their efforts will force the door open. But the door is not opened by force. It swings open the moment you relax into knowing. Faith is not a demand placed upon life. It is a silent, interior consent. It is saying, "This is already so," and then feeling the reality of that state as if it were here now. The imagination responds best when it is free, light, and unburdened. The mind creates clearly when it is not pressed by fear or urgency. When you strain, you cloud the inner screen. You become too focused on the absence of what you want. This focus on lack becomes a loop. You try harder because you don't see it, and you don't see it because you keep trying. Faith breaks this loop. It says, "Though I see it not, I know it is mine." That knowing is creative. That knowing is magnetic. You must also understand that belief is not built through willpower. It is accepted, not manufactured. You cannot make yourself believe something by trying harder. You believe something because you've accepted it emotionally. You've tasted the experience in your inner world, and once that taste is real enough, it impresses itself upon the subconscious mind without force. When you drop the need to make something happen, you open yourself to the deeper truth. That reality conforms not to your labor, but to your inner alignment. The law responds to your asterisk state of being asterisk, not to your asterisk level of effort asterisk. If you're trying to believe, you're not in belief. If you're trying to manifest, you're not in the knowing that it's already done. Paradoxically, the more you let go, the more things begin to move. The more you try, the more you anchor yourself in the waiting room. Faith knows it is already inside. Effort keeps knocking. Desire is a seed, not a task. It is not something to complete or chase, but something to plant within the quiet soil of the mind and allow to unfold in its own perfect rhythm. The moment a desire arises within you, it carries with it the potential for fulfillment, not because you must now work tirelessly to achieve it, but because it already contains the blueprint of its own expression. Like any seed, it knows what to become. The oak tree is already in the acorn. You don't need to instruct it. You simply need to give it the right conditions and let it be. The great error people make is turning desire into a burden. They treat it like a job to do, a goal to be managed, tracked, and controlled. They wake up each day wondering if it's closer, if it's happening, if they're doing enough to make it real. But this anxious need to monitor, this constant emotional digging and rechecking, only disrupts the process. It is as if a gardener were to dig up the seed every morning to see if it has sprouted roots. Such behavior doesn't help the seed grow. It harms it, disturbs its natural unfolding. The inner world works in stillness, not in pressure. When you plant a desire through your imagination, by feeling the wish fulfilled, by dwelling in the experience of already having, it begins to grow beneath the surface of consciousness. You may not see evidence immediately, but that does not mean nothing is happening. The unseen roots are forming, conditions are aligning. The world you know is rearranging itself around your inner assumption. But if you let worry in, if you begin to treat the desire as a problem to solve or a task to complete, you block the flow. Desire becomes heavy when it is mixed with doubt. You begin to question the process, to feel unworthy, to wonder if you're doing it right, or if it will ever come. That's when desire no longer feels like a quiet spark of life. It feels like a weight. But the weight doesn't come from the desire itself. It comes from your insistence on controlling how and when it must appear. You were never meant to do the work of the seed. You are only meant to plant it and live in the joy of knowing it's already on its way. True creation happens in a state of surrender, not surrender in weakness, but surrender in trust. You give the desire to the deeper part of yourself, the part that already knows how to bring it forth, and then you return to the feeling of having. You walk as though it's done. You carry the inner certainty, not because you've made it happen, but because you've allowed it to happen. You've stepped into the version of yourself who already has it, and now you simply let the outer world catch up. The beauty of this process is that you do not have to force outcomes. You only need to remain faithful to the state of fulfillment. Just as the sun knows when to rise, and the flowers know when to bloom, your desire knows the moment of its own expression. And that moment is never late. But if you continue to treat it like a task, constantly evaluating it, doubting it, comparing it, and fearing its delay, you interfere with the very process meant to deliver it to you. Desire is sacred. It is not a command to begin striving. It is an invitation to remember what is already yours in the unseen. You are not meant to make it happen. You are meant to know that it is asterisk, and in that knowing, you allow it to come forth in its full beauty and form. Let it unfold. Let it grow in silence. Let it come to you as all natural things do, without strain, without effort, and always on time. Imagining is the only reality, not because the physical world is unimportant, but because everything you call real first existed in imagination. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting your inner state, and that inner state is shaped and sustained by what you persistently imagine and accept as true. Imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is the creative power that molds reality. When you understand this, you begin to see that changing your life does not begin with action, but with the quiet inner act of assuming a new state. The imagination is not secondary to experience. It is the cause of it. Every condition, every relationship, every circumstance you are living right now was first imagined, either consciously or unconsciously. You may not remember the moment the thought was planted, the mood was felt, or the belief was accepted, but it is there. The world around you is the harvest of earlier inner activity. This is why you cannot escape your imagination. You live within the result of what you have imagined to be true. To imagine is to enter into a state, and every state of consciousness has a world attached to it. When you imagine wealth, health, love, success, not as wishes, but as facts, you align yourself with the version of reality where those things exist. You are not pretending, you are relocating. You are moving in consciousness to the place where your desire is already fulfilled. And once you dwell there long enough, once you persist in that state with quiet certainty, the world begins to reflect it. People, opportunities, and events start to move in ways that seem almost magical, but in truth, they are simply responding to your inner movement. Persistence is the key. A single act of imagination may feel good, even powerful, but if you return immediately to doubt, to the old identity, to the feelings of lack and worry, you cancel the new state before it can take root. The subconscious mind receives its orders through repetition and feeling. It is not persuaded by effort, but by consistency. What you feel to be true over and over again becomes the reality you walk into. So it is not enough to imagine once. You must live there in imagination until it feels more natural than the facts around you. This is not a denial of the outer world. It is a deeper understanding of how the outer world is shaped. You are not asked to ignore what you see, but to see it differently, to recognize that it is a shadow, a delayed echo of your previous imaginal activity. If you don't like what you're seeing, you don't fight it. You change your inner acceptance. You stop giving your attention to what you don't want. and you return again and again to the image of what you do want, not as a fantasy, but as a present truth in the realm of imagination. All transformation begins within. The outer world is too slow, too dense to be the starting point of change. Real change is invisible at first. It begins when you dare to imagine differently, when you shut your eyes and see yourself in the place you want to be, when you allow yourself to feel the joy of having what you once only hoped for, and when that feeling becomes familiar, natural, and automatic, the outer world must conform. This is the law. Imagination creates reality. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but always. It is the original cause, the unseen sculptor of your life. When you realize that what you persistently accept in imagination becomes fact, you stop treating imagination as a game or a distraction. You begin to treat it as the most sacred tool you possess. You understand that the only true work is to dwell in the state of your wish fulfilled, and to do so with faith, with feeling, and with the confidence that reality will follow. Because it must. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key. It is not the words you speak, nor the number of times you repeat affirmations, nor even the clarity of your visualization. It is the feeling that creates. Emotion is the language of the subconscious, and it is through this language that your inner world is impressed upon the outer. When you feel from the end, when you dwell emotionally in the state of already having, already being, already becoming, you activate the creative power within you. That state of being becomes the cause, and the world must arrange itself in accordance with it. Many people become trapped in the process of manifesting. They focus on how things will unfold, which steps they need to take, when signs will appear, or what exact path they must follow. But this attention to the process keeps them tied to the state of asterisk, not yet. Asterisk, the moment you begin asking how or when, you've stepped out of the end and back into separation. You are now emotionally rooted in the idea that the desire is still distant, still incomplete, still out of reach. And what you feel deeply and persistently becomes your world. So if you feel lack, you extend lack. If you feel waiting, you perpetuate delay. To dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to skip over the process entirely. It is to stand mentally and emotionally in the place where the desire is already realized, and to feel the peace, the satisfaction, the relief, or the joy that naturally arises from that place. It is to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and know with every fiber of your being, asterisk, it is done. Asterisk, you do not need to know how it came to be. You do not need to trace the path. You simply need to enter into the scene and feel its reality. This feeling must be natural, not forced. You are not trying to convince yourself of something untrue. You are awakening to the truth that exists in imagination and treating that inner experience as more real than the facts of the moment. The senses may still deny the wish, but your feeling accepts it, and feeling always precedes fact. What you feel long enough, deeply enough, and often enough must harden into physical form. It is law. You may think you're imagining correctly because you're picturing your desire, but if you're still emotionally fixated on not having it, if you're still anxious, restless, and watching for results, you are not in the state of the wish fulfilled. You are in the state of wanting, and wanting is a state that produces more wanting. Creation happens not in the longing, but in the fulfillment. You must asterisk feel asterisk it to asterisk seal asterisk it. There is great power in subtle, emotional certainty. When you enter the state of the fulfilled desire and make it your dwelling place, you begin to act, speak, and carry yourself differently, not because you're forcing anything, but because your inner world has changed. Your choices shift, your energy changes, you radiate the reality of your assumption, and the world responds accordingly. People show up, doors open, coincidences align, and none of it feels like effort. It feels natural because it is simply the reflection of your new emotional home. You are always dwelling somewhere in consciousness. Either you are living from the old state of lack, fear, and frustration, or you are living from the end in peace, ease, and quiet confidence. The choice is always yours, but understand this: you cannot dwell in both at once. You must pick the end and stay there emotionally. Every time you return to worry, gently shift back. Every time you are tempted to figure it all out, remind yourself, the end is done. The feeling is the signal, and the signal is the cause. All things are drawn to that inner conviction. The wish fulfilled is not just a future possibility, it is a present feeling, and that feeling is the key. Trying is resistance because the very act of trying acknowledges that you are not yet what you desire to be. To try is to confess lack. It is a subtle declaration that the desired state is somewhere outside of you, distant, unavailable, not yet achieved. The moment you say, "I am trying," you are also saying, "I am not." And in that moment, you separate yourself from the very thing you wish to become. All creation begins with identification. You must become it in consciousness before you ever see it in form. If you are trying to become wealthy, or trying to be loved, or trying to be healed, you are affirming that you are not those things yet. The subconscious hears the emotional content of your inner speech, not the outer words. So when your dominant state is one of effort, striving, and hoping, the subconscious receives the message, "I am lacking," and it reproduces that state faithfully over and over again until you shift into knowing. Trying is a subtle form of resistance because it keeps you on the outside looking in. It seems productive. It feels like you're doing something, but in truth, it is spinning the wheels of your consciousness in the wrong direction. It is noise. It is friction. It is the mental habit of struggling against what is, rather than accepting what can be. You cannot fight your way into a new state of being. You can only assume it, relax into it, and live from it. Resistance arises when you doubt the truth of your desire. When you believe you must earn it, prove it, or chase it, you engage with it from the outside. But creation does not happen from the outside in. It flows from within. The inner assumption, quietly and persistently held, is what gives rise to the outer fact, and that assumption cannot coexist with trying. One cancels the other. You either dwell in the end with faith and confidence, or you try your way forward from the place of not having. To imagine is not to try, it is to select. When you imagine yourself as already being or having what you desire, you step into a new identity. You are no longer chasing, you are claiming, and in that claiming there is no struggle. There is no urgency, there is only being. Trying involves tension. Assumption involves peace. You must recognize the energy of trying within yourself. It often masquerades as discipline or commitment. It shows up as constant effort, excessive repetition, and a frantic need to do it right. But behind all of this is the same emotional message. It's not mine yet. You are checking for results, watching for signs, hoping for proof, and all of that is rooted in resistance. True alignment doesn't need confirmation. It lives in the felt reality of already having. To stop trying is not to give up. It is to give in to the state, to the feeling, to the truth that what you desire is already within you. You do not need to become it. You need only to stop resisting it. You must stop reinforcing the belief that it's far away. When you drop the effort, you also drop the separation. and the moment you stop reaching, you start receiving. The moment you let go, you allow. In stillness, in quiet acceptance, the desired state begins to crystallize. You no longer need to do, you simply are, and from that being, all action flows effortlessly. No longer trying to manifest, you live as one who already has. That is the key, that is the shift. When you abandon the need to try, you step into the power to be. Live in the assumption, not in the hope, because assumption is the language of creation, while hope is the language of delay. Assumption is quiet certainty. It is the inner stance that what you desire is already true, already done, already yours. Hope, on the other hand, is laced with hesitation. It is a posture that says, I wish this would happen, while assumption confidently says, it already has. The two cannot occupy the same space within you. You are either living from the end or waiting for something outside to prove it to you. Assumption carries authority because it is based on identity, not probability. It does not ask whether the desire is likely or even possible. It simply chooses it as fact in consciousness. It selects the end and wears it as a feeling, an inner atmosphere, a state of being. When you assume, you take on the role of the one who already possesses the thing desired. You no longer seek, you express. You no longer request, you embody. There is a calmness in assumption because it knows the outer world must eventually reflect the inner conviction. Hope feels lighter than fear, but it still falls short of faith. It says, maybe, someday, if I'm lucky. It keeps the desire always on the horizon, never fully real, never fully accepted. Hope is looking at the wish as something external, separate, out there waiting to happen. It's a subtle form of resistance because it implies you are still not the version of yourself who has what you want. You may hope with sincerity, with good intention, even with positive emotion, but hope is still rooted in waiting. To live in assumption is to abandon the waiting. It is to close the gap between you and the thing desired, to step mentally and emotionally into the version of you who already has it. You don't wait for proof. You become the proof. You don't ask when. It is already now. You act, think, and feel from that place, even if nothing in the outer world has changed yet. And that is the creative act. That is what causes the outer world to bend. Imagination is the tool that makes assumption possible. When you imagine something vividly and consistently, and you let it impress itself upon your emotions, you begin to believe it. Not because someone told you it's true, but because you've lived it internally. That inner living becomes your dominant state, and that state hardens into fact. But if you only hope, you're never truly living it. You're observing it from a distance, as if through a window, never stepping into it, never fully owning it. The law of consciousness responds to assumption, not hope. What you are conscious of being, you become. What you claim within, you experience without. This is why it is said that to him that hath, more shall be given. If you have the state internally, the world must deliver the form externally. But if you only hope for the state, you have not claimed it, and the world remains unchanged. You must learn to rest in assumption. Not force it, not fight for it, but inhabit it. Assumption is not about convincing yourself over and over. It is about allowing the feeling of already having to become familiar. It is the difference between someone standing outside the door knocking and someone who already lives in the house. The one who knocks is hopeful, the one who lives there is assured, and life responds to assurance. So walk in the assumption, feel from the end, let it color your thoughts, shape your mood, guide your reactions. When doubts arise, return to the feeling. When fear speaks, listen instead to the voice of certainty. You are not asking for a favor. You are recognizing a truth. The world reflects what you assume, not what you hope. And when you live as if it were already done, it must become so. The subconscious obeys. It does not argue. It is not a judge, nor a critic, nor a moral guide. It does not weigh options or debate your choices. It accepts what you repeatedly and emotionally impress upon it as truth, whether or not it serves you, whether or not it's logical, and whether or not you consciously agree. It is the silent builder, always working beneath the surface, shaping your world in the image of your dominant thoughts and feelings. Because of this, you must feed it impressions, not doubts. You must give it the end result, clearly and consistently, without the noise of contradiction. The conscious mind is the doorway, but the subconscious is the creative power. You enter the subconscious through repetition, through feeling, and most of all, through assumption. When you dwell in a state of belief, when you feel something deeply and accept it as real, it slips into the subconscious, and once it is accepted, it begins to express itself in your experience. There is no delay because the subconscious does not wait to question or rationalize. It simply acts. This is why it is so important to guard the inner conversation. What you speak within yourself is far more powerful than what you say out loud. Every self-deprecating thought, every moment of fear, every emotional reaction rooted in doubt, those are seeds. And the subconscious does not distinguish between what is intended and what is careless. If you feel it, if you dwell on it, if you repeat it, it goes in, and once it goes in, it begins to shape outcomes, circumstances, moods, and encounters. You cannot argue with the subconscious, just as you cannot negotiate with a mirror. The mirror reflects what is, not what you wish it would show, and your world, being a reflection of your subconscious assumptions, mirrors back the dominant impressions you've planted. If you constantly oscillate between belief and doubt, hope and fear, confidence and panic, you create confusion. The subconscious is not moved by mixed signals. It produces clarity only when clarity is given. So your work is not to analyze, to figure out the mechanics of manifestation, or to demand answers. Your work is to impress the subconscious with certainty, with feeling, with consistency. You do this not through pressure, but through quiet repetition. Through dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled, feeling it in the body, hearing it in the mind, seeing it in imagination until it becomes familiar. The more natural it feels, the more readily it is accepted. And once accepted, the subconscious begins to move all things to bring it about. Doubt, worry, and fear are also forms of faith, but misplaced. They are faith in the opposite direction, and the subconscious treats them no differently than belief in success or joy or love. It accepts the emotional intensity and gives form to it. So when you indulge in worry, even privately, you are planting seeds you do not want to harvest. You are instructing the subconscious to create what you fear. The solution is not to fight the fear, but to stop feeding it, replace it, redirect your attention, choose the feeling of the fulfilled desire instead. The subconscious is loyal. It will carry out whatever instructions it receives. But those instructions are not given through effort. They are given through assumption, through what you accept as real, what you dwell upon with emotion, and what you persist in without contradiction. You do not need to persuade it with logic. You only need to show it, feel it, and return to it again and again until the impression is made. And when it is made, the outer world must conform, for the subconscious never fails to obey. It simply brings to life what you have chosen to accept as true. Creation is finished. This statement is not merely a poetic notion, but a profound truth about the nature of reality and consciousness. Everything that ever could be, everything you desire, every possibility exists right now, complete, whole, and eternal. The universe, in its infinite perfection, holds all outcomes simultaneously. Your role is not to bring creation into being, as if it were missing or incomplete. Your role is to choose where you dwell within that vast expanse of possibilities. You navigate the infinite landscape of existence by the focus of your consciousness. The idea that creation is finished means there is no outside force you must persuade, no battle you must fight, no distant goal you must struggle to reach. The world you see around you is a reflection of your current state of awareness, your current dwelling in consciousness. When you shift your inner attention, your feelings, your beliefs, you shift your experience. You move from one aspect of the infinite creation to another, much like turning a kaleidoscope to reveal a new pattern that was always present but unseen until you adjusted your perspective. You are not waiting for creation to unfold or for the universe to grant you permission. All possibilities coexist now, like waves on the surface of a boundless ocean. By focusing on one wave, you make it your reality. By dwelling in one state of consciousness, you exclude others. This is the power of choice, and it is immediate and absolute. You are constantly choosing, not through physical action alone, but through your dominant inner state, your assumptions, your feelings, and your beliefs. When you understand that creation is finished, you stop struggling to fix what seems broken or lacking. You stop seeing life as a problem to solve or a puzzle to piece together. Instead, you recognize that your present reality is simply the expression of the consciousness you have been holding. If you desire change, the only thing you need to change is where you dwell internally. You must inhabit the consciousness of the fulfilled desire, the completed vision, the ideal outcome. You do not create by doing, you create by being. This truth invites a deep relaxation because it removes the burden of trying to manufacture results through effort alone. It frees you from endless striving and frustration. The world is already abundant, whole, and complete. What seems like lack or delay is only a reflection of a misalignment in your focus. When your consciousness dwells on absence, limitation, or want, that is what you experience. When your consciousness dwells on abundance, fulfillment, and completeness, those states become your reality. Dwelling in consciousness means more than just thinking positively or wishing for change. It means emotionally and mentally living in the state of your desire fulfilled. It means feeling the peace, joy, or satisfaction of already having what you want. You close your eyes and see the scene as if it is happening now, not someday in the future. You carry the identity of the person who already possesses the desired reality. In this way, you align with the finished creation and draw it into your experience. Because creation is finished, resistance is the only thing that blocks manifestation. Resistance arises from disbelief, doubt, and fixation on current circumstances. These act like filters, clouding the clarity of your consciousness and keeping you tethered to a limited view of reality. To move beyond resistance, you must let go of the illusion that creation is incomplete or distant. You must choose to dwell in the state where the end is already achieved and the desire is already realized. This shift in consciousness is not about pretending or forcing reality to conform. It is about tuning into what already exists beneath the surface of appearances. It is about knowing that the perfect outcome is present and accessible at any moment. When you dwell there, your outer world must reflect it, because reality is nothing more than consciousness made visible. The choice of where you dwell in consciousness is the ultimate creative act. It is the key to manifesting effortlessly, living joyfully, and experiencing the fullness of the finished creation that surrounds you always. Stop checking for results, because the very act of looking for signs reveals that you are not living in the end. When you constantly scan the horizon for evidence that your desire has manifested, you reveal your inner state of doubt and separation. You are still waiting, still hoping, still searching outside of yourself for confirmation that what you want is true. This behavior pulls you out of the state of fulfillment and keeps you anchored in the realm of lack and anticipation. Living in the end means that you have already accepted your desire as a present reality. It is not something to come later, not a future event to be proven by external circumstances. It is a state of consciousness, a feeling that saturates your entire being with certainty and peace. When you dwell there, you do not look for signs because signs are unnecessary. The feeling of fulfillment itself is the evidence. You rest in the knowing, not in the hoping. When you check for results, you are measuring the unseen by the seen. You are judging your inner world by the outer world, which is always slower to respond. The outer world is a mirror reflecting your inner assumptions, but it can be delayed, obscured, or deceptive. If you depend on it for validation, you remain vulnerable to disappointment. You become a prisoner to circumstances instead of a master of your state. Signs are signals only when you are uncertain. They are like breadcrumbs left for the traveler who has lost the way. But if you live in the end, you are already home. You do not need breadcrumbs. You do not need to ask, is this it? Or will this prove it? Your internal experience is your guide and your proof. The peace and satisfaction you feel within are the markers of your fulfilled desire. Constantly seeking evidence also creates resistance. It places your focus on what is not yet, rather than what is. It breeds anxiety and impatience because it keeps your attention tethered to the gap between your present reality and your desire. Every time you check, you reinforce the story that your wish is not yet fulfilled. This undermines the very foundation of manifestation, which is faith in the unseen and acceptance of the end as already done. To stop checking is to trust. Trust means allowing the process to unfold in its own perfect timing without your interference. It means stepping back from the need to control outcomes and surrendering to the creative power within you. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to hold the end firmly in your imagination and emotions without wavering. Living in the end requires a shift from doing to being. Instead of pushing, pulling, or trying to force results, you embody the state of having already received. You act, speak, and think as the fulfilled version of yourself. This inner alignment causes the outer world to conform naturally and effortlessly. When you stop checking, you release tension and open space for manifestation to take place. Remember, manifestation is a mental and emotional process first. The visible results are secondary and must follow the invisible cause. If you are looking for signs, you are focusing on the effect rather than the cause. The cause is your assumption, your feeling, your inner state. Keep your attention there, not on fluctuating external evidence. The freedom from checking for results brings a profound peace. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a creator living from a place of certainty. You enjoy the present moment fully, knowing that your desire is secure in the unseen. This peace itself attracts the very things you desire because like attracts like. In essence, to stop checking for results is to stop living in lack and start living in abundance. It is to claim your creative power by trusting the process and embodying the end. When you do this, the outer world must yield because reality cannot resist the force of a mind and heart fully aligned with their own fulfillment. Stop checking for results because the very act of looking for signs reveals that you are not living in the end. When you constantly scan the horizon for evidence that your desire has manifested, you reveal your inner state of doubt and separation. You are still waiting, still hoping, still searching outside of yourself for confirmation that what you want is true. This behavior pulls you out of the state of fulfillment and keeps you anchored in the realm of lack and anticipation. Living in the end means that you have already accepted your desire as a present reality. It is not something to come later, not a future event to be proven by external circumstances. It is a state of consciousness, a feeling that saturates your entire being with certainty and peace. When you dwell there, you do not look for signs because signs are unnecessary. The feeling of fulfillment itself is the evidence. You rest in the knowing, not in the hoping. When you check for results, you are measuring the unseen by the seen. You are judging your inner world by the outer world, which is always slower to respond. The outer world is a mirror reflecting your inner assumptions, but it can be delayed, obscured, or deceptive. If you depend on it for validation, you remain vulnerable to disappointment. You become a prisoner to circumstances instead of a master of your state. Signs are signals only when you are uncertain. They are like breadcrumbs left for the traveler who has lost the way. But if you live in the end, you are already home. You do not need breadcrumbs. You do not need to ask, is this it? Or will this prove it? Your internal experience is your guide and your proof. The peace and satisfaction you feel within are the markers of your fulfilled desire. Constantly seeking evidence also creates resistance. It places your focus on what is not yet, rather than what is. It breeds anxiety and impatience because it keeps your attention tethered to the gap between your present reality and your desire. Every time you check, you reinforce the story that your wish is not yet fulfilled. This undermines the very foundation of manifestation, which is faith in the unseen and acceptance of the end as already done. To stop checking is to trust. Trust means allowing the process to unfold in its own perfect timing without your interference. It means stepping back from the need to control outcomes and surrendering to the creative power within you. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to hold the end firmly in your imagination and emotions without wavering. Living in the end requires a shift from doing to being. Instead of pushing, pulling, or trying to force results, you embody the state of having already received. You act, speak, and think as the fulfilled version of yourself. This inner alignment causes the outer world to conform naturally and effortlessly. When you stop checking, you release tension and open space for manifestation to take place. Remember, manifestation is a mental and emotional process first. The visible results are secondary and must follow the invisible cause. If you are looking for signs, you are focusing on the effect rather than the cause. The cause is your assumption, your feeling, your inner state. Keep your attention there, not on fluctuating external evidence. The freedom from checking for results brings a profound peace. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a creator living from a place of certainty. You enjoy the present moment fully, knowing that your desire is secure in the unseen. This peace itself attracts the very things you desire because like attracts like. In essence, to stop checking for results is to stop living in lack and start living in abundance. It is to claim your creative power by trusting the process and embodying the end. When you do this, the outer world must yield because reality cannot resist the force of a mind and heart fully aligned with their own fulfillment. Relax into your power by releasing the need to control every step of the process and allowing your imagination to flow naturally. True creative power does not arise from force or tension. It emerges from a state of calm, receptive ease. When you try to control outcomes rigidly, you create resistance within yourself. This resistance blocks the natural unfolding of your desires. The secret is to trust the process, to let go of the frantic grip on results, and to surrender into the relaxed state where imagination can work its magic effortlessly. Control is often mistaken for strength. Many believe that pushing harder, planning more meticulously, or striving with greater intensity will bring their goals closer. But in truth, control is a sign of fear. It is the attempt to fix what feels unstable or uncertain. When you cling to control, you signal to your mind and body that you do not fully trust the unseen forces at work. This lack of trust manifests as tension and tightness, which blocks the flow of creative energy. Your imagination, which is the tool of manifestation, cannot operate freely when confined by worry and resistance. Relaxation is not passivity. It is not giving up or resigning yourself to fate. Rather, it is the art of allowing, a dynamic openness that welcomes possibilities without grasping at outcomes. When you relax, you create a fertile ground within your consciousness where imagination can flourish. You become like a quiet lake, reflecting the sky clearly, undisturbed by ripples of doubt or fear. In this state, your mental images become vivid and alive, charged with feeling and certainty. Letting go of control means releasing the illusion that you must manage every detail. It means understanding that the creative process is beyond your mechanical effort. It is a dance between your inner state and the unfolding reality. Your role is to set the intention, hold the feeling of the fulfilled desire, and then step back. By doing this, you allow the deeper layers of your mind and the subtle laws of the universe to arrange the unseen causes that will bring your desire into form. When imagination flows naturally, it feels effortless. It is not a forced act, but a natural extension of your being. You find yourself daydreaming, visualizing, and feeling the end result with ease and joy. This natural flow is a sign that you have aligned with your true power. You are no longer fighting the current, but moving with it. In this effortless state, the images you create carry the emotional charge necessary to impress the subconscious mind deeply and permanently. Your imagination is like a river. If you try to dam it or direct it too forcefully, it will back up, stagnate, or break through in unpredictable ways. But if you let it run freely, it nourishes the landscape of your mind and brings life to your desires. Relaxation allows your imagination to run its course, shaping new realities from the seeds of your inner vision. Letting go also means releasing impatience. Often, the urge to control stems from a desire to speed up results. Yet, manifestation unfolds according to its own perfect timing. When you resist this timing, you only create friction within yourself. Relaxing into your power means trusting that everything is working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see immediate evidence. It means holding the end in your mind and heart with unwavering faith while allowing space for the process to unfold naturally. This relaxed state is deeply empowering. It shifts your identity from a struggling doer to a serene creator. You become a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence of the universe. Instead of wrestling with circumstances, you flow with them. Instead of pushing against obstacles, you move around or through them with grace. In essence, relaxing into your power is the ultimate expression of faith in yourself and the creative process. It acknowledges that you are more than effort and striving. You are a being of imagination and feeling, capable of drawing reality to you simply by aligning with it inwardly. When you let go of control and let imagination flow naturally, you open the door to miracles and manifest effortlessly from a place of peace. In essence, the greatest power you hold is not in trying harder or chasing results, but in surrendering to the truth that creation is already complete and that your role is simply to align your consciousness with that reality. When you stop striving and stop checking for signs, you free yourself from resistance and doubt. By living in the assumption, relaxing into your natural creative flow, and feeding your subconscious with unwavering belief rather than contradiction, you allow manifestation to happen effortlessly and naturally. True manifestation is not a task or struggle. It is a state of being. Trust in this process, dwell fully in the end, and watch as the world around you transforms in perfect harmony with the power of your imagination.